guys, and welcome to the official Sydney Grace swatch party here on my channel. I've asked in a few videos if you're interested in kind of seeing swatches of all of my Sydney Grace shadows, and I got a resounding yes from you guys. In fact, a lot of you guys have been following up in other videos going, hey, is that still coming? Do you still want to do it? So today is the official swatch party for Sydney Grace shadows. These are all of the shadows that I own from her in single format. I do also own her Enduring Love palette here. I hadn't planned on swatching this palette today. What I might do at the end is come back and show you like the closest single that I can find, if I have one, inside of the Enduring Love palette to some of her single shadow collection. To the best of my knowledge, the shades that are in here are different than any of these shades, but there may be some similarities. So we'll maybe address that here at the end. I should also say these eyeshadows may or may not be discontinued. I know Sydney Grace has gone through over the years and discontinued certain shades, brought others back, etc. Some of these I bought in bundles, so they may or may not be available for sale on their own. And then I also have in here some Sydney Grace shadows that came inside of her first palette, which was the Autumn's Rain palette. I actually ended up depotting that palette. It was magnetized into the actual palette itself, so it was very easy with a magnet to just lift them out. And I absorbed those into my single shadows, mostly because I always felt like I was missing shades from that palette. I loved all of the colors in there. They all performed beautifully, but I always wanted something else with some of those shades. So I just made the decision to kind of dismantle that palette and just put all of those in here. And in the process, because they weren't named, I went through and hand wrote the name of the shade on the back. So this video hopefully is fairly timely for you all, because I know that in July, Sydney Grace typically does a fairly big sale. And it is my understanding from following her on Instagram that that sale is coming in the month of July. So hopefully this gives you some sense for different eyeshadows, different colors, which ones are similar to one another, etc. if you are thinking about placing an order. I hands down feel like this is the best eyeshadow formula on the market. So hopefully this is a helpful video for you. I've talked for a while. Let's go ahead and get these divided into color family and then start swatching. Drift definitely looks more neutral on me because of my pink undertones, but if you have more neutral to warm leaning skin, this is definitely going to show up as even more pink on you. Alright, so next up I want to swatch some of the light to sort of mid-tone neutrals. Mid-tone on me, as far as I am, bear that in mind. But some of the neutrals that go truly more neutral to slightly more peachy warm. There are the 7 shades that are kind of in that mid-toned family that kind of go neutral to warm. All right, so now we're looking at neutrals and warm tones that are a little bit more mid-toned to deep on my skin tone. There are the 7 shades there. That's actually make a really pretty fall look. All right, so now let's look at some neutral to more cool tone leaning matte shades here. That one is one that I feel like got pressed a little more firmly than most of her shadows. It's still pigmented. I have no issues blending it out, but for some reason I think when they were pressing them, that one just got a little extra pressure, so not as much picks up on my finger or on a brush. There are some of the more neutral, cool tone neutrals, and then some of the more true cool tone shades. All right, so we've been focused mostly on matte, so now let's look at some of my more neutral shimmer shades, kind of going from more warm to cool toned. And there are those 6 warm, neutral, and more cool toned shimmer shades. All right, now we're heading into more of the purpley, mauvey, plummy type shades. I have quite a few in this site category. All right, now let's look at some of the shimmers. I've divided up these sort of mauve purpley shimmers into two categories. Ones that lean a little bit more neutral and pink versus ones that lean a little bit more purpley. So we'll look at the purplier tones next. So just for comparison, I wanted to show you this against one of the lighter shades I swatched at the beginning, just in case you were curious. So that is Milk and Cookies, that very light white champagne we swatched at the beginning. And then that is the shade Immortal, which has definitely got a little bit more of a murky pink undertone to it. And just for comparison, I wanted to show you these two shades. This is one we swatched earlier in the shade Transcendent, and that is the shade Wondrous Night that I kind of had as part of this grouping. And I wanted to show you the difference between the two of them. So that is Wondrous Night, which is definitely more cool toned, and that is Transcendent, which has definitely got more of that gold undertone to it. All right, so this grouping definitely has more lavender, purple undertones to it. I just noticed as I flip this over, this is the greatest gift. You can definitely see that that flip is more intense on that shade. The greatest gift is the shade that is currently on their website. Greatest gift, I think, is a shade that they had maybe started with and felt like they could improve the formula on, and I do think they did that. So this is the shade that is available now. rather than do the matte and shimmer separately, the last two sections we're going to look at are greens, and then finally we'll wrap up with blues. Before I wipe these swatches off, I'm gonna go ahead and swatch this next matte shade that I have kind of put in the blue section, but it has teal, similar to the last shade we swatched, but one is teal leaning green and one is definitely teal leaning blue. This is the shade Ice Fishing. Alright, so here are my teal to more traditional blue shades. I have gone ahead and swatched the first shade. This was Ice Fishing, which we compared to in the last section as well. Final thing I want to do inside of today's video is just kind of give you some swatches of some shadows in the Enduring Love palette and the closest shade that I have inside of my collection. In the top row of the palette, this is the shade Juliet, and then the closest shade that I have in my collection is the shade Merciful. Also in the top row, this is Elizabeth and the shade Sweetheart in her singles collection. Next up in the second row, this is Victoria, and then this is the shade Speedway. In the bottom row of the palette, this is the shade Cherish, and then this is incredibly similar, like almost the exact same shade as Pismo in her singles collection. Alright guys, so that wraps us up for my Sydney Grace swatch party. I hope you guys enjoyed seeing all of these shades swatched. The discount code that I do have down below is not an affiliate link. I do not make any money off of it, but I was given a code by Sydney Grace to share with you guys for 15% off. I hope you guys are having an amazing week. Hopefully this was a nice way to unwind and look at some beautiful eyeshadows.